I thought about it a lot when I got started. Like I kind of had imposter syndrome. Like when I was trying to get into the business, I'm like, oh, people like lenders aren't going to take me seriously, or buyers aren't going to take me seriously. Sellers aren't going to think I can actually buy their house when I'm 20 years old. And I'll tell you a funny little story. I actually bought glasses when I was like 20 years old. I didn't need glasses. Maybe I do now. But I actually bought glasses. I wanted to look older than I was so people would take me more seriously.
I love it.
And once I started doing, a bunch of deals, I realized like no one really cares. In fact, a lot of people I realized want to help you when you're younger because they appreciate or respect the ambition of a younger person, right? Because everyone talks about how the younger generation's lazy and not ambitious. When they see someone younger who is, they want to help them most of the time.
Right. Welcome to Burning the Ships podcast, and I'm your host, Jason Seward. And today, I've got my friend, Mr. Sam Hopkins, on the show. Welcome, Sam.
Excited to be on, Jason.
Yeah, man. I'm glad to have you on. I've been kind of from afar initially, but now we've done some business together, kind of admiring what you've done and how you're scaling so quickly. And we'll get into all that. Before we get any further, I am going to turn it over to JJ for JJ's Joke of the Week. Take it away, JJ.
What do you call a dog magician? A labracadabrador.
All right, JJ, that was a good one. So, Sam Hopkins, where are you from, Sam?
So I live in a small town most people probably never heard of. I moved recently, so now Stanleytown, Virginia. Population is like probably 600 people. So like I said, most people probably never heard of it, but Southern Virginia, about an hour from Roanoke. It's the closest big city to me.
Right. Yep. So I went to Radford University, which, is, not far from there either. And spent a lot of time out in that market. And, as a college student, not so much as an adult, but now we're getting familiar with it from the real estate side. But Sam, you and I think I first got connected with you through social media. And I think we had just started our lending company. As far as the fund goes, we were already lending a little bit. And you were starting and kind of scaling your company as well. And you had some good sources of capital. But eventually our paths crossed and we were able to do some business together. And that's where I really got to kind of know your scale and your operations, your mindset, things like that. And I've been a big fan ever since, obviously as a customer, but also what you're doing, outside of real estate as well. So I'm excited to get into all that. The way we'll start it off, Sam, is I'm going to turn it over to you and just let you introduce yourself. Take it whatever path you want to go, and then we will go from there.
Yeah. So my name is Sam Hopkins. Like I said, live in Southwest Virginia, and I got into business in 2020. Started like researching it and learning and just going down the YouTube University path to try to learn everything I could about a year before that. So just about a year of learning and trying to figure out how to get started. And then March 2020 is when I did my first deal. And when I got started, I was more of a wholesaler. Did some like wholesales, I guess you'd say, where I bought the property and just resold it as is, but I wasn't really doing a bunch of rehabs or anything like that. And slowly, I say slowly, it kind of happened pretty fast. About a year after getting started, I started hiring some team members, a virtual assistant, and then a disposition person to sell our wholesale deals. And then it just snowballed pretty quickly. Went from doing 1 or 2 deals a month when I was working at AT&T and working at GNC. I was working 2 jobs doing sales at both those places. The first year I was getting started because I didn't have another source of income. So I saved up about $11,000 from those 2 jobs and did my first deal. And then I think 6 months after doing my first deal, when I was consistently doing 1 or 2 deals a month while still having those jobs, I quit the jobs and went all in on real estate. And that's when I started snowballing, hired an employee, started spending some more money on marketing. And I think the second year we did right around like somewhere around 100 deals our second year with a very small team, couple employees, and then gradually got more into, less wholesale, more flips, more rentals. And it's crazy to think about even now, just reflecting on how much the business has evolved over the past, 4 or 5 years.
Right. So I want to go back to the early days. So you, you're 2020. So we talked offline. We'll go ahead and throw this out here, but your 2020 would have been 5 years ago. So you're 26 now. You were 21, 20 years old, roughly?
Yep.
Right? Okay. So you jump into this much younger than most people. and right at the beginning of a pandemic, because it was March 2020. Like that's when everything kicked off. Um, you were working two jobs. It sounds like. What was that path like back to high school days? Go back a few years before all this.
Mhm.
Did you have an entrepreneurial spirit? Or like what led you to entrepreneurship?
Yeah, in high school, my dream was actually to make it to the NBA or make it as a
Okay.
professional athlete somehow. I played basketball all throughout school and also played some football, and then went to small junior college in Martinsville area. That's actually why I came down to this area. I'm from Winchester, Virginia originally. This is where I went to high school at.
What high school did you go to?
Yeah, so I bounced around a little bit. I went to a school called Strasburg High School, and then I also went to what was it? A school in Front Row, Skyline High School for a time, and went to James Wood High School as well. I went to 3 different schools within the 4 years in that area. hmm But yeah, I didn't really know anything about real estate. Wasn't thinking about real estate when I was in high school. I was just trying to make it as an athlete. I knew I didn't want to have a typical like W-2 job. I knew I wanted to either be like an athlete or maybe be like a sports agent or do something in that realm if basketball didn't work out. And it wasn't until I read Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was either like 19 or 20, maybe 18, I don't know, 18, 19, 20, somewhere in that range. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I'm sure probably, you've read, probably 90% of your listeners have read. And that's what really sparked the entrepreneurial and real estate bug.
You know, a lot of guests I have on here reference that book. I reference it quite a bit. Um, but not many people are reading it at 19 years old. So who put it in your hands? Were you a reader? Like, were you seeking out that type of content, or did somebody say, hey, read this, it'll change your life?
Yeah. Honestly, I think I was just like looking up ways to make money, like just Googling like how to make money, how to get rich, like things like that. And that was a book that popped up in my internet searches. So yeah, I just went out and bought it after I found that as a resource. For a lot of people. I think I also just listened to a lot of podcasts. I was listening to a lot of like bigger pockets podcasts, things like that. And a lot of the guests would mention they've read Rich Dad Poor Dad. So that was probably why that was the first book I read on it.
Right.
And I also had a customer come into AT&T. This is another thing that kind of coincided with that. We had to ask people what they did for work or business. We sold business accounts when I worked at AT&T. And this guy came in there and said he flips houses for a living. And he's coming in like flip flops and like athletic wear in the middle of a work day. Just seemed very he had a very cool laid back lifestyle, and he was pretty open and candid about what his business looked like and how many hours a week he worked and how much money he was making flipping houses. And keep in mind, I'm making $11 an hour at AT&T, and it was very intriguing. And I also had already read Rich Dad Poor Dad, so I was already interested in real estate. And I basically had asked him to shadow him or like watch, like come to one of his flips and like just check out his process and what he does. And he actually was willing to do that. So, he let me come to some of his flip properties and show me the rehabs, kind of told me how he's finding the deals. And combined with my own research, that's really what got me into it.
Have you kept in contact with him?
Yeah, he actually, when we started wholesaling, he bought some properties from us.
Good.
And yeah, still keep in contact with him occasionally.
Gotcha. So when in March 2020, that's when you kicked it off. You did 100 deals there in your first year or so. Most of those were wholesale deals.
Yeah, 2020. So 2020 was my first year. I did my first deal in March, and this was when I still had the job. So I didn't do 100 deals in 2020. I probably did. I know I had made around $250,000 or so, like in profits. I can't remember exactly how many deals I did. Probably 30, 40 deals, something like that. Just me, mostly part time until I quit the job like end of July. So I was only full time for like the last 4 months of the year. And then the next year, my first full year, that's when I did around 100 deals or so and broke the 7-figure, profit range.
So that year, so let's go to your first full year, 2021. Um, at that point, had you added, or I think you said you had some virtual assistants. Was that pretty much the team, you and some VAs?
Yeah, it was just VAs. I think my first hire was a cold caller virtual assistant. Yep. So I had like 2 or 3 cold callers eventually before I had my first W-2 employee.
Now, were you learning wholesaling strategies like across the board through podcasts, YouTube, or did you at any point take on a mentor or, somebody to kind of guide you?
Yeah, so I mean, at first, I was really trying to get into flipping because I didn't know what wholesaling was, and then I kind of stumbled into like a Max Maxwell wholesaling conference or wholesaling event or something. He did like a free event in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is like 2 hours from where I live in Virginia. And one of my friends actually had told me about it. He was trying to get into wholesaling, and I was like, I don't know what wholesaling is, but I'll go with you. And he was talking about how to skip trace and find sellers, and you could do assignments, and you didn't need to have, cash or credit to do it. And it's just that lit um, the light bulb. I mean, to where like I didn't need to save up a certain amount of funds to do flips. So, yeah, so that's kind of what got me into wholesaling to start with. I really wanted to get into flipping first, but I didn't have the cash or the credit. Like I said, I had like 10 grand or so to start with. And, over the next couple of years, I got a bunch of courses and things like that. I never had like just one mentor, but I had a bunch of courses and lots of people in my network that I got to talk to.
Yeah. So from there, like the evolution is you're wholesaling. Now you got to piece the puzzle pieces together to figure out how to flip and find the capital and stuff. So, um, were you initially taking your profits from wholesaling and then dumping them into flips, or did you find private capital pretty early?
Yeah, so I used my own cash at first. I didn't do a lot of flips probably until my third year in the business. I was mostly either just wholesaling or wholetailing where I'd buy the property and just close on it, resell it as is, maybe clean it out. And then maybe a couple like lipstick flips here and there, just like carpet and paint type rehabs. And that was all my own cash early on. And then, it was probably my third year is when I found a couple hard money lenders or private lenders my third year.
Right. Gotcha. And so so that would have been your third year. We're around 2023. So really the last 2 years have just been game on for you, right?
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
well, all everything I can see is as far as, from our perspective. Is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah. I went from being, 90%, 95% wholesale and doing, a couple wholesales here and there. We're doing pretty much, similar volume, like 100, plus deals, but now we're, flipping and buying rentals and not really doing much wholesaling at all. Just occasional wholesale deal here and there.
Right. Gotcha. So where has the team evolved to from like that 2021 to or really 2023 it sounds like is when you started getting heavy into the flips. What's the team look like now?
Yeah. So when we had scaled out the wholesale operation, we had a couple acquisition people. We had a couple disposition people being the people that sell the wholesale deals to our buyers. We had a transaction coordinator. So, I mean, the team is kind of the same foundational team. The biggest changes have been instead of having disposition people, we don't have any disposition. We don't have any full-time people on our team that just sell the wholesale deals. We have one of my transaction coordinators is cross-trained to do that, but we don't have a full-time dedicated person because we don't have enough wholesale volume. So instead of having the disposition people, we have two project managers now because we have a lot of rehabs. So the two project managers, and then about 2 months ago, I brought on a COO to kind of serve as our integrator in the company. If you are familiar with the traction, rocket fuel, I'm very much the visionary type. My COO, he's an integrator. So that's the biggest changes in our team is the project managers and then bringing on the integrator right now.
Yeah. That's I'm glad you brought that up because that's a we're in a unique like our my partnership with Bill Phillips, he's the integrator. Like I'm a good 0 to 1 guy, and then my brain just can't go any further. Like I have all the ideas in the world. He hand selects the ones that he thinks he can implement, and then we, go from there. But for you to maybe not have that through a partnership, but to recognize that you need to bring on somebody in that, and that's an executive role, so to bring that person on, that, kudos to you for being aware of that, to kind of I mean, what it does is it masks your weaknesses a little bit. Like it allows you to do the things you're good at, right? And have you
Yeah.
felt that since bringing that person on?
Oh yeah, it's been kind of freeing to be honest with you. Yes, because I was doing a lot of things before that like I can do them. I'm competent at them, but it's not the best use of my skill set or not things I'm passionate about. So the goal with bringing him on for one is to grow the business, but also to get myself in a position to where I'm only doing the things that I'm best at and that I'm passionate about in the business.
What are those?
So probably very similar to, I'll tell you, but probably very similar things to what you would say for yourself. I'd imagine based on what I've seen on your Facebook. But for me, finding deals, I really like the deal flow aspect, just hunting deals, finding more private capital, just finding capital sources, structuring deals, and I really like R&D, like just finding new ways to monetize, the strategy aspect. I really like, the marketing and sales side. Those are the main things that get me excited to jump out of bed in the morning. Really finding deals, finding capital, and the strategy.
Yeah.
And things that I hate, would be like bookkeeping, admin, anything admin related, like managing the financials. Like there are things that have to be done, but I don't want to be the main one doing the day to day when it comes to them. So
Yeah.
those are the things my integrator loves to do. So it's a perfect match.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I talk about this a lot, but like one of the biggest pivots I made in my career, and this is back when I was in the corporate world, but just accept that I'm really good in some areas and I'm terrible in most areas. And those areas that I'm terrible in, the best way to lead is to delegate those things. Not try to I don't necessarily have to improve every weakness that I have. I just
Yeah.
need to lean in and double down on the strengths. And then if I can put people in place, it took me 15 years in a corporate setting to before I realized that. Like I was always just trying to get better at the things I was terrible at and then make everybody else better at the things they were terrible at.
Mhm.
Once I switched that, things have taken off for me in every aspect of life. It sounds like you figured this out much earlier than I did, which is setting you up pretty good.
I stumbled into some good books, Who Not How. I read that book and that shifted my mindset as well on the concept. It talks about, what's the guy's name? Dan Sullivan. He talks about your unique ability, figuring out what your unique ability is, the things that you're passionate about and really good at. And he talks about like, instead of the misconception that people have of trying to like what you just talked about, like growing up, they always tell you work on your weaknesses, fix your weaknesses, make your weaknesses your strengths. And his approach is, counterintuitive to that. It's more so focus on your unique ability and, stop doing everything else. Get the right people. So for me, that was like the project managers. I don't have a construction background. I don't like project management. I don't like admin. I don't like bookkeeping. So, I mean, it would take me decades to get good at all those things. And, if I could even get good at those things, so just, yeah,
Yeah.
that book was another transformational book. That and Traction.
Yep. Yeah, so I don't know if you know Greg Dickerson or not. He's from like the Charlottesville, Virginia area, but he did a lot of the early development, the big development down the Outer Banks. So he was one of the biggest builders down there for years. But he tells the story of he went from running restaurants to starting a handyman business to growing the biggest development company down the Outer Banks, building multi-million-dollar homes and still doesn't know how to hit a nail with a hammer, right? He was good. He was the visionary. He just hired expert level people every step of the way. And he always hired ahead of success. And I've always loved that mindset. Like as we are growing our company and I see you growing yours, I have no problem like hiring ahead of where we're at essentially. Like I want to put the foundation in place even if it comes at a major cost so that when we do build to that next level it's there. We're ready to rock. I'm not always chasing from behind if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep, cool. So you are again I mentioned you're 26, you're having success in real estate that a lot of people don't find they'll spin tires for quite a while. It sounds like you've had a relatively fast pace to your first few years in it. Um, you're probably, I don't know how much you attend networking events and stuff like that, but you're probably often the youngest, most successful person in the room when it comes to real estate. How do you view that? Like from a confidence level, insecurities, anything like that around being in a room with a bunch of 40s and 50-year-olds that are at your level at such a fast pace?
Yeah, that's a good, interesting question. Um, I'm starting to feel like I'm kind of old now because I'm in some rooms and I'm starting to see some people that are like actually younger than me. I went to a last couple events I went to, I see some people that are like 22, 23, 21, and now I start to feel like kind of like the veteran in the room, right?
Mhm.
Um, but I wouldn't say I think a whole lot about the age thing. I mean, I thought about it a lot when I got started. Like I kind of had imposter syndrome. Like when I was trying into the business, I'm like, oh, people like lenders aren't going to take me seriously, or buyers aren't going to take me seriously. Sellers aren't going to think I can actually buy their house when I'm 20 years old. And I'll tell you a funny little story. I actually bought glasses when I was like 20 years old. I didn't need glasses. Maybe I do now, but I actually bought glasses. I wanted to look older than I was, so people would take me more seriously.
I love it.
And once I started doing, a bunch of deals, I realized like no one really cares. In fact, a lot of people I realized want to help you when you're younger because they appreciate or respect the ambition of a younger person, right? Because everyone talks about how the younger generation's lazy and not ambitious. When they see someone younger who is, they want to help them most of the time.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, now I realize that this doesn't matter.
Yeah. It doesn't. I mean, I couldn't agree more. Like I tend to be drawn, like if I go to a networking event and a college kid comes up to me that's at the event and they're interested in getting into flipping or wholesaling or whatever, like instinctively I want to go help that person. Like I want to lean in on them and help them, right? And I it is to your point, like you respect that hustle or that desire at such a young age. So I agree with you there. Um, so you're mostly flipping and buying in Virginia, is that correct?
Yeah, I went through a time period in my business where we were trying to wholesale nationwide. We even did some flips nationwide. Like I did a rehab in Lawton, Oklahoma, Toledo, Ohio, and we were profitable on them, but it was a massive logistical headache. So now we try to we only market to Southwest Virginia. And we're actually bringing in our flips even more. Like you guys have funded a few for us that are like 2.5 hours away or so. We're trying to pull that in to where we're 90 minutes or 60 to 90 minutes or closer from where our project managers are based out of, just because logistically it just makes more sense. It's less headache.
Are you seeing enough supply out there within that range for I mean for you guys to keep the pipeline full?
Oh yeah. I mean, for us, the big thing is we still market like we're a wholesale company.
Yeah,
So we're not reliant. We buy from other wholesalers, we buy from the MLS, but we're not reliant on that. We generate most of our own deals are from our own marketing efforts. So we are able to keep a good pipeline at all times.
gotcha. What is at this point and at the scale you've gotten to, so roughly on average, like this year, how many transactions do you anticipate?
Total transactions, probably around 180 to 200 this year.
Okay, gotcha. And what's kind of the mix of flip versus wholesale versus hold?
Yeah, I'd say probably 100 to 120-ish flips this year. And then the rest would be combination of rentals, deals that we're, you basically doing the Burr method with.
Yep.
Some wholesale, novations, if you're familiar with novations, and wholesales would be the rest of the deal flow. Yep.
So the way you're structured now, it's a lot of volume and it's a lot of what I call fast and like kind of medium money, right?
Yep.
You're not, I mean, you're only 26 now, but you're not going to want to chase that fast money forever. So what does the next evolution look like in your business as far as you kind of building some of that longer term wealth?
Yeah. So, I mean, right now I have about 40 doors and I want to keep buying more rentals.
Okay.
I don't know that I want like a massive portfolio of like, 1,000, 2,000 units or anything like that. I think that, I definitely want at least 100 plus doors, but I'm focused more on quality over quantity. When I got into the business, I was attracted to the rentals that cash flowed really well on paper, like the $20,000 houses in rough areas that would rent for $800 a month. Now, most of the houses I'm buying, they're like $250,000 like brick ranches in really good neighborhoods that are going to appreciate or at least be more likely to appreciate in value. I'd rather have 100 of those than like 400 class, D class rentals in rough areas.
Couldn't agree more. We just, early on when Bill and I partnered, we were targeting volume and just building the portfolio as fast as we could, but we had full-time jobs at the time. Um, so cash flow wasn't as important to us. Like we just need to make sure it stayed positive. If we're making $100, $200 a door a month, great. But what you realize, and you know this now, having so many, no, nothing cash flows. Like there's always a heat pump going up. There's always a roof or turnover or whatever. Like it's very difficult to make that level home consistently, like cash flow month to month in the short term. So now I view all of that as like paying down the equity, if we could just, we can break even on our portfolio from a cash flow perspective, we're building tremendous wealth long term. So I've really changed perspective there. So,
Yep. Yeah, appreciation and the depreciation. I mean, that's the biggest thing with the flips we're doing. We're trying to offset as much of that tax burden as possible. But I think, maybe next year we'll try to burr like one deal for every 3 or 4 we flip. Maybe
yeah.
just do a little bit higher percent of rentals.
Yep. And then you mentioned taxes, like that is like another level of real estate strategy is like, you've got this machine that's spitting out a lot of cash flow right now, active income through the flips and wholesales and stuff like that. Well, there are, above board, very strategic ways to offset the tax burden or the tax, liability you have with all that. How much have you explored those avenues? I know through depreciation, through buy and hold, but have you looked at investing in other like syndications and stuff to get some of that tax benefit as well?
Yeah. We're primarily just doing cost segs on all of our rentals that all the ones we intend to keep long term.
Mhm.
We're doing cost segs on. I don't know, the syndication model doesn't really I'm not really attracted to the syndication model just because I see a lot of operators kind of going belly up with that the past couple of years, and
Mhm.
you don't have any collateral. Like, I think what you guys do is great because you have the first lien position, you have the collateral. But with the syndication, that would make me a little bit. I'd rather have the control and buy my own deal if I was going to get into more apartments.
Yep. Yeah. No, I agree. There's always we see it year after year, but like starting around October, November, there's always a lot of syndicators offering up depreciation, right? So like you buy in, invest 100 grand, get 300 grand in depreciation. And those are always attractive. But at the end of the day, you got to be investing in an asset that's actually going to protect your money, right? So you got to be careful there. And,
Yeah.
yep, cool. So you're gonna sounds like you're gonna kind of as moving forward as situations come up, you'll lean more into quality buy hold investments. Um, where do you envision like from your involvement in these businesses and as it goes, like do you always see yourself hands on and in the middle of it, or do you want to get to the point where it's predominantly passive and you can focus on more passion projects and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I go back and forth on it, honestly. I've had the business like when we were primarily wholesaling, I had it to a point at one time to where, it was almost passive. I was working like probably 5 hours a week in the business and I was kind of bored, like I like to work out. I don't have a whole lot of other hobbies. I'll travel every, 2, 3 months or so and go somewhere, but I don't just want to sit on the beach and do nothing all day. I'm too
Yep.
too young and would get too bored for that. So I don't know if I ever want to get it 100% passive right now, at least. But I just want to have a decent balance to where I have time to, spend with, family and in the gym and travel occasionally. But I think as long as I'm doing the things I enjoy, like I just want to stay in that circle to where I enjoy and I'm doing the things I enjoy and I'm really good at. As long as I'm there, I'm okay, and I actually want to continue to work in the business to a degree.
Yeah. No, I like that. And you know, and I actually recorded last week another podcast episode of me talking about this, but recently I was out of town for 2 weeks of vacation, right? I've never done that. 2 straight weeks. There was one with my wife and kids, and then me and my wife went a second week right after that. And for years in my corporate career, like I couldn't wait for vacation. I couldn't wait, right? I would disconnect from everything, wouldn't even think about my job, and I would just be present, all in on that vacation. Well, now that I'm full-time entrepreneur, I'm struggling disconnecting. Like my brain, like now I'm there, I'm present, I'm enjoying the relaxation and stuff like that. But to your point, there's a limit to that, right? Couple days on the beach and I'm good. I got to get back in the game, and that's kind of a new epiphany for me is like, it's okay to have both. I want to travel the world. Like there's nothing I love more than traveling,
Mhm.
but it's got to be in quick doses, man. And I still have to stay attached to my birthday because I'm passionate,
Yep.
you know?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So you mentioned working out. I know you're very into that, obsessed with it and all those good things. Where does that come from? Has that been a staple in your life since you were a kid, or is that something new?
Kind of ties into, my same mindset I have with business. Like I've always just wanted to be, I mean, even when I play sports, like I always wanted to be the best at whatever I do, or just see what my potential, I want to see what my fullest potential is in whatever I do. So with, basketball, I wanted to be the best player I could and wanted to see what my potential was. I didn't get as far as I wanted to, but I feel like I at least maximized my potential by even getting to college and playing in college with where I started as a player and my genetic potential. And yeah, just it keeps me disciplined, I feel at my best when I'm pushing myself really hard in the gym
Yeah.
or in business. Like if I don't work out, I almost feel like it wasn't a successful day. It's hard
I
for me to
get it.
go sleep at night without doing some type of physical activity.
Yeah. No, I get it. I like today's a great example. It's Monday. And typically I hit my workout in the morning and because I just that calibrates the day for me, right? And it just gets
Yeah.
something hard in. And well, this morning my wife's a teacher. She's back at school, but the kids haven't gone back yet. So I've got them all day and it's I wasn't able to get to the gym. But as we sit here we're recording at 1:30 in the afternoon, something's missing. Like they've
Yeah.
got to get this energy out, So I'm with you there. I've got to get it out every day through some type of workout.
It's like when you're in school and you just can't wait to like go to recess and like just get some physical activity, and then you come back and you're like, okay, I can work some more now. It's kind of how I feel. Like if I'm cooped up in my office all day and I don't go to the gym, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm with you there. You mentioned kind of like eventually starting a family and stuff like that. If I'm not mistaken, you are engaged, and
I'm the good.
yep. So when's the wedding?
It's in November. Yep, late November. We're getting married in Savannah, Georgia.
Let's go. That's awesome. My wife lived there for several years, so I love it down there.
Nice.
So y'all are getting married in Savannah. How? Let's talk about your fiance a little bit. Is she involved with the business at all?
She is, and I'll say I probably involved her too early, but she's been phenomenal in the business. Um, she her role is she's kind of like our lead transaction coordinator, and then we're in the process of hiring a full-time like admin and bookkeeper at house, but until we get that person in place, that's kind of been her role. I always tell her she's kind of the glue in the company because she does a bunch of all the things that like no one's really full-time responsible for, and I don't want to do. I pass to her.
Yeah, I get it. Yep.
you know so
So you're experiencing working alongside a spouse pretty early and you're not married yet, so you're going to get that. So
yeah.
what do you see that continuing? Because a lot of people are very successful with it, and a lot of people struggle with it.
Yeah, I think her role will evolve. Like we've talked a lot about her getting her realtor license and getting away from doing some of the stuff she's doing and being able to I think she'd enjoy, being a realtor more, listing our flips and not so much like being tied to certain tasks within the day-to-day of the company. But I think to some degree she'll be involved with the business.
Mhm. Gotcha. So my wife has not only no involvement with our business, she couldn't tell you the simplest of details about our business. Like that's just the way like she appreciates it, but no involvement. And I don't know that we joke all the time about it, but I think we kill each other trying to run a business together. So I want to ask you, like, what are some strategies, and you're young, but what are some strategies that you guys implement to be able to separate, like, we're running this business together, but now it's a date night, or we're going to take this trip and go travel. How do y'all separate the two, if at all?
Yeah, so I have a controversial opinion on that. I think a lot of people try way too hard to separate it. Like, I think if you love what you're doing and you're passionate about what you're doing, and even though like my fiance, she might not love the business the way I do, but she still likes her role and she's still passionate about the business because it's something that we're kind of doing. Like she knows it's not just like she's not just working for a random company. By her working in the business, she's helping, us grow our future, right? So it's not like talking about her corporate job, like complaining about that while we're at dinner. We're talking about something we're both passionate about.
Okay.
So I don't think you necessarily should try to separate it and be like, okay, well, we're at dinner, so we can't mention anything. Like, no, let's talk about our business wins while we're at dinner. Wow, there comes a time where you have to, okay, it's, baby, it's 12 o'clock. Let's not talk about deals that are falling apart right now. Let's wind down. But I think it's just, figuring out what works for you guys at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And it's funny because, like I mentioned, we went back to back weeks. So the second week, which was the week before last, my wife and I were in the Bahamas, just us two, and we were like, it's just gonna be a me and you vacation. We're gonna forget about the kids for a week and all that. Well, do you think that happened? No. Like
Yeah.
every every topic of conversation, we were tying the kids into it, and we were both laughing about it. We were like, why not? We're both passionate about our kids. We like talking about them, and here's an opportunity to have more time to talk about like future plans and future trips and stuff like that. So I agree. If it's something you're passionate about and you can talk about it without it creating conflict, by all means, like why would you avoid those conversations? Oh, so
Yeah.
agree with you. Um, so as far as again, you kind of outlined like where you see things and stuff like that, but like what? Well, let me ask you this: have you guys or have you considered either soon or down the road like doing any type of mentorship, coaching platform, anything like? Because that tends to be part of the evolution of a lot of folks in your niche.
Yeah, I've considered it. I have a lot of friends that are into that, and they've told me I've been told by a lot of people I should do that, and I'm sure I can make money doing it. But um, one thing that I struggled with early on that I've gotten a lot better at is just focus.
Yep.
You know, I saw you had posted, or somehow I saw you read a book that I read as well called The One Thing by Gary Keller. And, you know, reading that and like reading Traction, a lot of other books as well, and just talking to people that are very successful, like I believe you have to focus on your niche and focus on, you know, one thing until you master it, which for us, that's flipping affordable houses here in Virginia. And, you know, while we're doing really good, I feel like we haven't mastered it yet. And we have a long ways to go to get to where we want to get to. So I think coaching right now, you know, it could produce revenue, but I think it would be a distraction from what my core focus is. So that's why I'm not doing it right now.
It's a great answer, man. I mean, I appreciate that answer too because it's such an easy way to monetize, like get another stream of revenue. Because once you do it, once you have enough experience to market, people want to know how you did it and they'll pay you money to do it. So it's a very easy thing to do. But the negative side of that is a lot of people lean into it without putting the proper focus in it, and they don't really have a good product to sell their students, right? And I really do appreciate you kind of taking that stance at this point. Like, no, my focus needs to be here on the one thing, and that's I appreciate it. I'm gonna give you another book. It's gonna come out of left field, but it's one I just read that I think would. Let me ask you this first. Every business has customers. Who are your customers?
So there's kind of two sides of that for us with what we do. You know, we have customers on the acquisition side, like when we buy a house, the customer in that sense is the seller, right? So that would be like a distressed seller for us. It's someone typically who's 50 to 80 years old who has a, you know, distressed house that they're either like an absentee owner, like they're not living there, right? And then on the back end, we have another customer when we fix up the house. That would be for us, you know, we focus on the affordable housing space. Somewhere in the 150 to 250,000 is our average ARV. So we're focusing on people that are looking for a, you know, first time home or someone who's downsizing into a smaller home, and that affordable price point would be our customer on the back end.
Right. Okay. Perfect. So, are you familiar with the Savannah Bananas?
Yes. The only reason why I've heard of them, funny enough, I was reading the book Clockwork while I was in Savannah.
Okay.
And the author mentioned, he's told a story about the Savannah Bananas in the book while I was in Savannah. It was kind of a cool coincidence.
All right. So first thing, I'm gonna give you a little homework. First thing, just look up Jesse Cole, who's the owner of the Savannah Bananas, and kind of you can find plenty of resources there. And then I want you, when you have time, to read his book called Fans First. And it's a business book. Doesn't sound like it. You know, he's running a baseball organization and all this, but I just read it 2 weeks ago when I was on vacation. And dude, it has changed my entire perspective around building your customer base and treating them as if they're fans of what you're doing, right? And taking this mindset of it's the same logic of customer first, customer's always right, stuff like that. I'm not gonna spoil it. Go get the book, read it, get it on audio. It's a pretty powerful thing that he's done in his business, but he makes so many good correlations to any business, you know. So that one is like as I'm talking about it, I've got a million ideas that have come from that book, just in the last couple weeks. So,
Awesome. I just wrote it down. I'll add to my list.
yep, cool deal. So, what are you excited about? What excites you in the next, any big changes? I know you're getting ready to get married. I hope that's one of your answers. But outside of that, what are you excited about in business? And let's say the next 12 months.
Yeah. The first thing that comes to mind outside of, getting married on the business side is just really excited to see how things progress with the COO integrator I hired. We've only been working together for 2 months or so now, but I feel like our relationship has grown a lot just since he started, and we've made a lot of great improvements to our structure, especially on the project management side. We had a lot of work to do there, and I feel like leaps and bounds we've improved in just our systems, our processes, our accountability in that department since he was brought on. And we have big plans for 2026, and I'm excited to see like we're fully implementing EOS. And I was saying 2 quarters from now, like our business is almost going to be unrecognizable from all the improvements that we're making. So real excited about that.
Is your COO, did he have an operations background, or was he just had a good mindset and you trained him?
Yeah. So no, I didn't train him. He's a bit older than I am. He's about 60 years old or 62 years old. He came in with a lot of experience. He actually was the integrator. He implemented EOS as the integrator for a roofing company that he basically took them from doing $10 million or so to doing over $20 million a year in just a couple of years as the integrator for that company. And he also was a CFO and had his own bookkeeping business. He has a lot of experience in the corporate world with scaling companies. So
Gotcha.
he's new to the real estate industry. So that's been the only thing that's kind of new that I've had to train him on is like the real estate specific stuff. But that's the easy part. Most people wouldn't think that, but that's the easy part.
Yeah, I mean, operations is operations, right? I mean, and if you have that kind of mindset where you have a good vision for logistics and how puzzle pieces fit together and efficiencies and create like all that stuff, you find somebody that has that skill set. It's transferable to any industry out there.
Yeah.
They just got to be trained on what that industry is. So yeah, that big step for you. That's huge, and it allows you again, like we talked about earlier, to be freed up to do what you like to do or what you're good at. Um, are you? How often, even at your young age, how often do you think about legacy?
I think about it. I don't.
To you.
Yeah, so I probably don't think about it enough, but I definitely do think about it from time to time. I, I don't have a great answer for you right now. It's
Yeah.
still something I'm thinking about. I'd say, yeah. I don't.
Let
I
me,
want to
I'll tell you
help
that.
me out. Tell me yours. Give me some.
Well, I'm just gonna. I'm like the way I think about it. Like your clarity around legacy. I don't know if you guys plan to have kids or if that's in the cards, but you will see that vision come into focus a lot more clear when you have kids, if that is in the cards. If not, then your legacy will unfold as you go through marriage and stuff like that. But for me, it never, very rarely crossed my mind about legacy until my daughter was born. And then my son was born, and now as they're getting older, and I see them developing as they're looking up to me, and a lot of things I do influence what they do. It's on my mind constantly. And when I think of legacy, I was talking to somebody about this recently, but like my legacy, I could not give two what's about my wealth or my legacy of like building a big real estate company. I want to be judged on my children. Like, was I a good dad? Was I a good influence on those that I influenced, whether it's my kids, my family, my friends, or people just following along. And that's how I think about legacy now. And it consumes me, right? And I truly believe that being consumed and obsessed with that, the money and all the other stuff that comes with it is just a byproduct. And like, I want to make as much money as possible, but I don't focus necessarily on that as my legacy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. For me right now, if I had to give you an answer, I'd say I want to be able to like when it's all said and done. I'm not sure if I'm gonna have kids or not. But like if I was on my deathbed, I want to be able to look back at my life and just feel like I left it all on the table. Like I did everything I could and then I left people in a better spot than I found them. Like when it comes to our employees, our lenders, the people we come in contact with, I would want them to say I had integrity, that I was a hard worker, that I was disciplined. Like those are the things I would want to kind of leave behind.
Yeah.
But as far as, I need to give some more thought. I'm not sure if we were going to have kids yet or not. That's
Yeah.
something
You're,
we've had up in the
you're
air.
26. This stuff didn't come clear to me to like, it's still trying to become clear. So you got plenty of time.
Yep.
But it's always an interesting thing I like to talk about people when I get somebody a little bit younger, it's usually pretty clear that it's not really a top priority of thought right now about legacy because you're still building everything, right? And so I like that. So and you mentioned like we're a lender of yours, and I know you've got a lot of sources of capital, but everything you just said about working with integrity and stuff like that, you've proven that, and we've done a lot of deals together, and it's just a small portion of your deals, but like you do what you say you're gonna do, you deliver, and from a lender perspective, that's just putting deposits into us basically because the more people operate with integrity and complete deals with us, the less risk that we have in investing in their future deal, right? So our business model is all about mitigating risk. Average is yours, just in a different way. And you perform very well with that. And I just want to give you your shout out there.
Yeah, likewise, you all have been great to work with. A lot of lenders talk about how easy their process is, and then you try to do a deal with them, and it's like a bunch of red tape, and it's just a nightmare, right?
Yeah.
It's like pulling teeth to get a draw. That's not the case with you guys. I mean, I just sent a draw request this morning actually for 2 that we finished that you guys funded, and within like an hour, I believe Bill emailed me back and sent the draw, or sending the draw through ACH. So appreciate you guys making it easy, and it's been a great lender to work with.
Yeah, and for folks listening that hear me say that I'm not involved with operations at all, I have no idea what Sam was talking about. So I'm not a piece of that part of the business at all. So, but I'm glad to hear you're having a good experience. So
Eventually, I won't be a part of that process either. I'm going to have our COO or admin person probably sending a draw request.
yeah. So that's Bill's baby, and he does a good. Him and Ted, Tim, all of them do a good job with it. So let's see. We'll start wrapping things up. I got a couple fun questions for you. We're going back to the gym. I know you're a gym bro. You love it. Or you're more of a like bodybuilder, strength training type guy, right?
Yeah, it's a bodybuilder. I'm not. I haven't competed. I've been encouraged by a lot of people to try to compete. Maybe I will at some point. But yeah, definitely more in the bodybuilding side of things.
So the diet is a big piece of that.
Oh yeah, I mean it's the biggest part. It's
Yeah.
probably 80-90% of it. You can train as hard as you want and do all the right exercises, but if you eat a bunch of Chick-fil-A every day, you're not going to look the way you want to look.
All right. Break it down. Like I'm all about fitness, health, and nutrition. I like to hear people's different approaches and perspective. So give me an average day of eating for you.
Yeah, so I'll say first, average day eating for me might not be what average day eating for you should look like.
Right.
It just depends on what
Right.
your goals are. But average day for me, I usually fast until noon right now, and I'll have 2 protein shakes at noon, and then at throughout the day I have five meals. Steak and potatoes is right now all I eat, just sirloin steak and potatoes, and then I do three protein shakes later in the day, and then I actually get these protein muffins from a company called Buffin Muffins. I order them online. They're really good, but they have like Buffin Muffins.
Okay.
Yep. I have no affiliation with them, but I always tell people about them because they're so good. It tastes like something out of a bakery, so it hits that sweet tooth if you have a craving. But they're very they fit your macros. At least for me, they're high protein, low fat, and so I eat dessert every day. I eat 2 of those muffins a day.
Yep.
And yeah, that's all I eat. So yeah, 5 steak meals, 5 shakes, 2 muffins. And then once a week I have it change. Once a week I change it up and have kind of whatever I want as long as it fits my macros for that day. Once a week.
Gotcha. So let's stick to protein. How much, or like as far as that macro, how many grams are you trying to get a day?
Yeah. So to be honest with you, I have a guy that's like kind of like a coach. He preps all my meals. He brings them to me every 5 days in Tupperware containers for me.
Oh, nice.
And he weighs everything out. So he tweaks my macros and stuff. So I could be wrong because, like I said, he calculates everything and he just tells me, hey, this is what you got. Eat this. But I think he has me eating right now somewhere around 300-ish grams of protein a day, somewhere in that range.
Do you mind me? What's your body weight, if you don't mind me asking?
223 morning weight right now.
Okay. I geek out about numbers, so
Yeah.
it's about these type of numbers. I don't like numbers in business, but when it comes to this, all right. So that's kind of the diet, pretty simple, pretty clean, and I like that. I like how you've kind of outsourced somebody to prep it and do it for you. That's my biggest struggle. I try to meal prep every Sunday, so I'm dialed in Monday through Friday. The weekend hits, that's when I go off the rails, and I'm okay with that. But
Yeah.
uh,
I haven't cooked or cleaned a dish in a couple of years. And I have no intention of doing so. So that's the only way I can stick to it. If you told me, Sam, you have to cook 5 meals a day, there's no way I'd stick to it. I'd be eating fast food.
I like it. Cool. All right, and then workouts. You're doing, mostly strength training, I would imagine. Are you doing like big compound lifts? Are you doing like what's your workout routine look like typically?
Are you familiar with push pull legs?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I do push pull leg split. I normally do push pull legs. Then I take 2 off days and I repeat the cycle. So 3 days on, 2 days off, and I do cardio, steady state cardio. Right now I'm doing like 30 minutes of elliptical steady state. 6 days a week is what I do for cardio.
Right. Do you have do you track steps? Do you try to hit a certain amount every day? Or
That's a good thing to do, and I've thought about eventually getting a watch or something to track my steps, but as of now, I'm not doing that. I make sure I get my 30 minutes on the elliptical, and I get my lifts in.
and then your push pull splits, are you doing mostly free weights? Like are you bench pressing? Are you deadlifting, squats, stuff like that?
Yeah, so I would start out with the compound lifts. I like, for instance, on pull day, my favorite back exercise, I do really heavy T-bar, chest supported T-bar rows for my back. On push, I start out with like an incline dumbbell bench. On legs, I start out with usually some type of squat movement. And then throughout the exercise or throughout the workout, I would normally do 5 to 7 exercises, and I'll usually do 2 or 3 like compound, like a squat or whatever, and then I'll do some isolation like leg extensions and hamstring curls, things like that to get more volume.
Gotcha. Yeah, I just recently, within the last like 4 or 5 months, it's the first time in my life I've been chasing some strength goals. I've always worked out, not always, but here in the last 10 years, I've been pretty active. But it's always been like hit type workouts and high cardio, not that much strength training. But I've really leaned in on it, and like with a plan, I've got a coach for coaching me through every workout and all the nutrition, and I've become obsessed with it. Like trying to hit these PRs and stuff. So it's kind of been a good change for me because I'll get bored with workout too. I got a big
Yeah.
plan. So yeah.
What's a strength goal you're trying to target right now?
So it started off with just the flat bench. I was trying to get to 315 as a max, 1 rep max, and I mean I don't remember. Probably college was the last time I tried a 1 rep max. So
Yep.
20 plus years ago. And right now I'm at like 280 on that. So I'm still chasing that. But then my coach was like, well, we're not just going to chase that. Like, if you're going to get strong there, I need your whole body getting strong. So he's got me doing a bunch of deadlifts, strict presses, squats, and stuff like that. So the new goal is to get to the 1,000-pound club, which is deadlift, squat, bench press, cumulatively 1,000 pounds. So I just touched it, and I was at 955. So I got a little bit of work to do, but that's what I'm chasing right now. So
Nice. Yeah, you're very close.
yep, cool. But Sam, anything else you want to cover while I've got you here and while we got the folks' attention?
Don't have anything off the top of my head. Any other questions for me?
Oh man, I appreciate what you're doing. You're very active in a way on social media that like people, especially throughout Virginia, but like you're active enough to make people aware that you're in the game. Like you're the real deal. You got a lot of stuff going on. You're scaling. You got on our radar. We're doing business together now. I saw a post recently about you thinking about ramping up social media. Where do you see that going in the next? I know you've got plans in the next couple quarters. Yeah, part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you say that. I always feel like I'm slacking on social media. Like I feel like I post 3, 4 times a week, but I always feel like I'll have a week or so here and there where I don't post. I get busy with other things. You guys seem to have a machine built with your content. I think you have a company helping you guys, but I really like what you guys do. So kind of just want to do something similar to what you guys are doing, to where I have someone helping consistently just get content out to attract more deals, attract more capital, even contractors, just attracting people to the business. So, if nothing else, we'll probably at least my project managers, like for the draws, for example, one idea I had, like when we send a draw request to you guys, we have to do a video of the property, and usually I have my project manager do that. So I can start posting things like that, like videos my project manager are already doing, like, hey, here's an update on this flip. We're doing. It's not really for content; it's for getting on draw, but I can use that for content.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
if nothing else, just stuff like that to let people know what we're doing, and like I
Yeah.
said, track people that could bring capital or bring deals.
The biggest and best move we've made in business is, and it came at a hefty cost initially because we paid for it ahead of revenue, basically. But right when we launched the fund, the lending fund, we had no revenue. Like, we started at zero, but at the same time, we spent the money for someone to manage social media and build out the brand and all of that, because we would not stay consistent ourselves, right? And like with this, it's got to be in front of people, and they. So now we've been with this company a couple years, but we don't have to think about it. Like, we meet with them once a month, kind of go over how things are going, and if they need us to shoot some videos, we'll do it. But it has been probably the biggest lever we've pulled from an expense standpoint that has given us the most return that we can't really measure. It's hard to measure that return, but yeah, it's definitely been great for the business we're in anyway. So
It's awesome, man. Yeah, I think they do a great job with your content.
yeah, I wish I could take credit, but we have no idea what they do. They just throw it out there.
It's even better.
Yeah. So Sam, I appreciate your time, man. I appreciate you sharing a little bit of your story, and I think it's very encouraging. I hope it is to folks to realize, I've had folks in their 70s come on and didn't get into real estate until they were 60. And then I got folks like you that just immediately got into it, gained some traction, and now you're building a monster. And I think that has to encourage some folks to take some action. So I appreciate you sharing your story.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate you having me on.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.
You too, man.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Burning the Ships podcast. As always, we want to thank our sponsor, 608B Capital. We are a short-term lending fund, a debt fund, open for investors who are looking for a passive return. And also we offer products to our main product to fix and flippers and buy and holders, folks that are doing things like that in real estate. Also want to remind you about our referral program. Check out our website for more information on that, and we're happy to talk to you further if you're interested. Again, thank you for joining us on Burning the Ships, and do me a favor and go out and try to find someone or some way that you can add value into the world today. Think through it, zoom out, and try to find where you can add value. I think it'll help wrap up your day, wrap up your week, whatever you're working on a positive note if you constantly think that way. Where can I add value? So with that, we thank you for joining us on another episode of Burning the Ships. Have a good one.